Happy to have everybody here at the demo day. And just to keep us on time, without further ado, I think we'll let Landon from FIT take over the screen and present. So, Hannah,
Right
if you want.
on. Oh yeah. Can you hear me okay, Taylor?
Yes.
Okay. Let me share this and wow you guys with some fit updates. So I am Landon, president of Fit. And first of all, go Buckeyes. They secured their most recent national championship back about 10 days ago.
Yoo-hoo.
Yes. They defeated Notre Dame 34 to 23 for the College Football National Championship, which was in Atlanta. So that's the first time that they've won since 2014, and it's their ninth overall trophy. And I have been in their trophy room. I should have put some pictures of that here, but their trophy room is huge and very impressive. So big deal in the football world, but also a big deal in the S&C world, strength and conditioning. A gentleman named Mickey Mariotti is the head S&C coach at Ohio State, and he's been incredibly influential over the last 20 years in collegiate strength and conditioning. So during their trial of Fit late last summer, Mickey asked for and quickly received some special functionality built into Fit to accommodate his unique training approach. They signed on and they have been using it this entire season. They've been very pleased. And as of last week, I'm in talks with Ohio State to bring all 38 of their teams onto the Fit platform. So good news and good news there. In December, I attended the baseball winter meetings and brought on our fourth Major League Baseball team, the Chicago White Sox. I sat down with the S&C coaches from each of our MLB teams that are using Fit. They're all very happy with Fit and really appreciate our ultra fast response time in terms of tech support. We take care of these guys. We take care of all of our clients. They love us for the quick turnaround on bug fixes and tech support. So 2024, from January to December, we increased our ARR by 71%. We brought on clients in each of our personas, and we also brought on two colleges using Fit academically. So that means that the professors of strength and conditioning courses are using Fit in their classrooms to teach their students uh, in the course that's designed like, hey, this is how you create a program. This is the way that you intricately put together all of these components to make sure that your athletes are injury free and at peak condition when they need to be. So that is a lot of future S&C coaches being exposed to Fit early on in their careers, and we want to continue to expand that effort. Let's see, in 2024, we studied the athletic training space to validate our expansion plans, and there are no dominant players that are providing um, that are providing rehab program builders. So the athletic trainers are behind the tech that the S&C coaches have. So it's like we're kind of trying to like fight all of these competitors in this S&C space, and we're carving a niche out for ourselves. But there's this blue ocean just like right next door, and so we want to be the gorilla in that market. And as our footprint grows in AT, it also makes good on Fit's promise to be the foundation of a high performance organization. So all of these elite sports organizations are trying to get to this kind of place of high performance, which means everybody's playing. What is that? Everyone's playing off the same sheet of music. Everybody's rowing in the same direction. So Fit really supports that because it's a place, a central place where all of the athlete care can be held and seen by all of the stakeholders involved in athlete care. So that's an exciting move for us. So 2025 is when we want to do that. I would say we will continue to grow in S&C, and especially this year, watch our social media. This is when we're going to really start to highlight our current customers and what they're doing with Fit. And our long-term vision is to be the operating system for human health and performance professionals. So once we dominate the athletic trainer space, we'll be ready to move into that billion-dollar physical therapy space and other equally enormous markets. So we're talking about tactical, we're talking wellness and health and wellness for general population, aging population, concierge medicine, it's etc. So we're closing our round of funding right now. So please let me know if you would like to be a part of Fit's growth in 2025. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Landon. So for everybody in the room here, that's an update from the last demo day. So Landon didn't go through the full presentation. If you're interested in that, we've got a recording of it that we can share. In the meantime, you're welcome to put any questions or comments in the chat. The intent here is how can we help as a group here? How can we help Landon in his efforts? Either it sounds like to win customers and investors right now. Any questions? Anyone want to come off mute or make a comment for Landon? We've got a few minutes of Q&A scheduled. As you're figuring out that you're going to come off mute, I would like to say, I think, Josh Hinkle, it's good to see you here. And I think I may have wanted to put you together with Fit because of your amazing tennis prowess and your coaching there. But I can't remember if I did or not. But I think there could be an overlap with your amazing coaching and tennis abilities and what Fit's doing. So I'd encourage you to connect with Landon.
Yeah, sounds. I found that interesting. So yeah, I'll have to reach out.
Awesome.
Please do.
Hey, Landon, I thought that was a great overview and update again. No, I thought it was pretty awesome actually. And prior to the game, I was listening to the coaches talk about their season and about their athletes' condition. And they said, we knew this was going to be a longer season, longest one we've ever had. They mentioned, some performance things they were doing to see where their players were, and noted that their players' freshness was at a level where it was like the start of the season. Like they've been very mindful of how they trained and done practices, and they mentioned I forget what it's called, like a plate that you would jump off of to measure your explosiveness, like where that stood. Is that something associated with Fit as well?
Yeah, so most of these gyms do have what are called force plates.
Yeah.
And they're really cool. I mean, these guys, it's like where that overlap between sports and nerds is a pretty cool place. And so it shows like and each part of the jump, the sports scientists have broken that down. And so
Mhm.
you can start to see the asymmetries in a person's jump and start to correct for those. And then, like then you're like, okay, is he more explosive or is he more powerful? And you can start to see that athlete's profile. And then the coach can decide, what that athlete needs to work on, what the workout needs to be custom, how it needs to be customized to get that athlete the way they want. Do we want to go more for
Yeah.
speed, power, strength? And so, all of those variables are tracked there and with other cool sports tech. And so, yeah, Fit wants to take all of that data in and let the coach create decision trees around each one of those metrics, such that as the data comes in and changes, it flows through those decision trees and delivers a customized workout for that athlete.
It was actually pretty cool watching, this pregame stuff, like the media and so on, where basically the coach gave a testimonial of this data-driven approach on how they were managing their athletes' health. And they were very pleased with like how fresh people were and where they stood and felt pretty confident. And I was wondering back in my mind, I was like, I wonder if he's talking about fit. So I think he got some free press there without realizing it.
Yeah, yeah,
I
that's
think we
cool.
should get that recording and put it up on your website.
Mhm.
That's awesome. All right. I know we're going to try and keep on schedule here. So Landon, thank you. There are some questions in the chat. If you want to address those now, great, but we're going to move on to the next presentation. You can do that in the chat. But otherwise, thanks for being here. And if you want to throw your contact information also into the chat, then people can reach out to you. So
Yes,
that
and
would be
let's
perfect.
see. If you guys would, I would love it. It's great to see all of your names in the chat. I'll put my email in there. I have to jump, but especially Alan, I'd love to catch up with you because I just found a great nootropic. If you're one of those guys, I am. So let's chat.
Awesome. Thanks, Landon.
Mhm.
All right, we'll shift gears. And so the next three presentations we've got are GoSadi, TRRP, and Skeema. So Michele, would love to have you take over the mic and the screen if you would like, and introduce yourself and GoSadi. You've got 7 minutes, and then we'll do Q&A.
For sure. Hello, I'm Michele, Michele Costa, that is. I'm the co-founder of GoSadi. I'm a 3-time founder with an exit, and all of my companies are within the fiber and craft space. And as a founder, as a designer in the craft space, one of the problems that I had was that time seemed not as pliable as I wanted it to be, and it kept running out. And in order as an independent seller to put my patterns on and my products on Etsy, on Ravelry, on Shopify, on all of the various places, the clock kept tipping every day and I would run out of time. And I had this idea about 7 years ago, 8 years ago, and I just knew there had to be a solution, but I didn't think about it. 3 years ago, my husband died suddenly of a massive heart attack at 46. And time took on a new meaning for me. And I thought about all those hours I put into my business and my need to get those back, and how could I do that, get them back for other people. And I was talking to a woman I know and a friend, Hillary, and she's like, well, I need that, and I have this other idea. And so we came up with GoSadi. And how do we put time back in people's day? We reverse the funnel. And that's what we do here at GoSadi. So if we could take all of that work and make you only have to do it once and reverse that funnel, so all of that information is pushing out to the places where you sell your products about your products, we could create time. So for example, and I'll give you a quick demo, we are in beta right now. You can see on this slide that this product is available on Ravelry, Etsy, and the GoSadi platform. I no longer have to go to Ravelry to update my product. I no longer have to go to Etsy to manage my product. If I had a Shopify store, I wouldn't have to go to Shopify to manage it. I could go to my GoSadi hub and manage that product from a single source, saving time. Additionally, creating product listings is incredibly laborious. It takes on average 30 to 55 minutes to create a product listing, depending on where you're selling it, based on, and this is in the fibercraft space, based on all of the details and attributes that's needed. In GoSadi, we've created an AI-driven tool that can read your PDF, is dedicated to the crafts space, knows exactly what data to pull out, And quite literally, in less than 90 seconds, it has created your product listing template from all of the details in your PDF. And that includes all of your, you can see here, it's just taken it a second to read the PDF. It's got the pattern name. It's got all of the details that it needs. It knows that it's a sweater design for a pullover. It's telling me what materials are needed, what yarn. It's showing me what sizes this pattern is available in. It's pulled all the data from my PDF. It's got all the attributes a maker will need to know. And so that's really exciting. So I've saved myself all that time getting my product out there. We have found that using GoSadi saves an average of 5 to 8 hours a week. And that if you add that up a month, that's almost a 40-hour week if you get all the maximized out. So we're giving you a work week back. Imagine what you could do with that time with your family, with your friends, more business. I'm a business junkie, so I would create a new business if I had extra time. So what's really exciting about GoSadi is that we're not just focused on the one aspect of the fiber arts community. We know that for this to really work and become a time-saving tool, it has to be good for makers as well. So we've created a way for makers to also find things to make. And as anybody knows from the pandemic, knitting and crochet and crafting is pretty freaking hot right now. So a maker could go into GoSadi, type in what they want to make, not only get results from GoSadi, but find them curated from every other one of those sources. Because we've taught GoSadi how to know what crafters want to create based on crafters' use characteristics. We are pre-launch. We are currently in beta. We expect to launch by end of year. We have the craft space in and of itself is a number that's astronomical. It's a $54 billion space. It is a real number. The e-commerce space in and of itself holds a huge portion of that. And as the climate changes in society, people are getting back to crafting. People want more handmade, less consumerism. People want avenues to make their own things, mend their own things, and we're providing that place for them to find that. We currently have an exclusive relationship with Ravelry. We have a full commercial license with Etsy. And we have an exclusive pattern distribution partner with Vogue Knitting to take over the distribution of their 40 years of patterns. And we are currently in the process of integrating Shopify for our launch. So that's a brief overview. It's not the entire full pitch, mostly because I didn't know if I was supposed to get into the numbers and all of the nitty gritty here, which I'm more than happy to do. We did do a raise. We are bootstrapped and angel. We do have an angel who came on early. So we have a little runway right now, and we are looking to get to market by the end of the year. And anyone who wants to knit or crochet or talk e-commerce, I'm your girl.
That's awesome, Michele. Thank you. Great presentation. What would be most helpful for you with GoSadi right now? Like, what would your ask of this be?
This is actually a really exciting room to be in because I end up in rooms like this a lot. And my biggest ask is who in here knits and wait, I have to stop sharing so I can see if you can raise hands. Who in here knits or crochets? Can you hit the raise your hand button for me? Yeah, okay, this is an awesome room to be in. I love that. One hand. Great. This is amazing. You guys are my people. Okay, so the challenge that I have is that I'm knee deep in this space, right? All of my businesses are in this space, and this is the first time I've built a company that could potentially take us out of this space. It's an e-commerce platform, right? So my question to this room that I would like to pose is a two-part question. As a non-knitter or crocheter or non-craft space person, did I say anything that made you interested in learning about the space or possibly engaging in the space? And if the answer is no, what kind of thing would make this an attractive company for you to be interested in? That's what this room can really help me with because I don't have an opportunity enough in my career of building this to be in these kinds of rooms. So this is a really exciting opportunity.
Michele,
And you're on mute. Whoever's answering, you're on mute. I'm going to steal Taylor's trick.
Am I, am I mute?
No, you're good, Matt.
Okay. So my wife is taking up knitting, by the way. So I get to watch her knit endlessly. But earlier in my career, I worked at this boutique investment bank, and we had this specialty group where we focus on hobbies and crafts. And I agree that that's a really great market. And the market got even better during the pandemic and so on. And we consulted with a number of private equity groups looking to do buyouts in this space, um, and did a few deals. And that was at that point in time. I know the market has since once again evolved and is larger now than it was then. But even at that point in time, it was considered an attractive space to be for a number of reasons. I think you hitting on some of those dynamics just a little bit more. You said, hey, this is, I think, what, 56 billion, something like that. Just to give a sense of the growth as well as like, hey, this market's 56 billion. 2 years ago, it was 30 billion. There's been some big exits over the years in this space. I think that would get investors interest, make their ears perk a little bit. Like, oh, okay, people are buying into this space. But I love the space you're in, though, like just from all the things I've seen in the past.
Well, thank you. And do please share my information with your wife. I'll help your craft
Michele,
room grow.
yeah, exactly. Michele, are you asking for feedback on what would make us as individuals become a consumer or a knitter or fabric? No, what do you call it?
We call ourselves the crafters. We're the makers. We make stuff.
Okay. Fiber. That's the one I was going.
Fiber artists. Oh yeah, that's that. Yeah, fiber artists.
Are you
No.
looking for feedback on how we can become it, or how on the business side, like
On the
what?
business side, on the
Okay.
business side, because it's very niched down, right? And so one of the things that spaces like this appeal to me for, which is why I actually wanted to come today, was because it's rare for me to be in spaces that aren't in the niche. And I have to communicate about the niche to those spaces. And so it's a great opportunity for me to get that feedback on a business level. I can
Okay.
turn anyone into a knitter. Just give me 5 minutes and some yarn. That's not a problem.
Okay. On the one comment I had was on the slide that you showed your partners like Etsy, Shopify.
Yes.
I would have liked to have seen, and maybe I just missed it, the potential that you have in each one of those, because you talked about it and I know like they're all huge, but what is the specific
Yeah.
opportunity with each one of those partners? Because I think it's huge, and I think that would slap some people in the face in terms of like, if like, yeah, just the numbers there.
No, that's great feedback. Actually, that's feedback I've never gotten before. That's great feedback. Thank you. That's usually the slide people like the most because it's the sexiest with the big names, but that's really good feedback.
There's some recognition there as well on some of the names and that. So I think that's powerful. So Michele, I apologize. I got here late, but I'm a huge fan of you as a founder more than anything. But I will say,
I'm going to interrupt Jeff for 1 second. I didn't get to it because I didn't get to the numbers, but we do have our projected numbers thanks to Forecaster in our full deck, which is this is our model.
I
Sorry
love it.
to cut you off, Jeff.
okay,
Well,
Michele, that's exactly where I'm going because
you're stealing the thunder a bit. I was going to give Jeff and Josh a 2-minute intermission to tell about Forecaster. So we're right on time at almost at 2 minutes to half past. So let's move into that. Jeff and Josh,
oh, perfect.
if you want to.
Actually, let me just I'll tie this in, then I'll let Josh talk a little bit about Forecaster. But I will say, Michele, you asked the question of what would it take to get a bunch of guys in here, and I don't know how many women we have in this audience because everybody except for you on the video are all guys. I think you're gonna have a hard time getting us to be knitters and crafters necessarily, but maybe you could do it. But what you could do is get us to be investors if this company makes money. And that's what we're going to be interested in. I loved what Matt said. It's like, if you can show that there's been huge growth in this market And there have been some acquisitions, some big acquisitions. There's a lot of activity there. That's what's going to get all of us as investors or anyone else. I don't care if you're male, female, whatever. We're going to be interested in how you make money. So with that, I'm gonna let Josh talk a little bit about Forecaster, because I know he actually works with you and probably helped you with your creating your financial model.
Sure. Yeah, I'll keep this kind of quick, but yeah, Michelle is one of the founders I work with. I'm a fractional CFO over at Forecaster. And so we basically do financial planning and analysis for startup companies. So as early as you are or as late as you are, we work with you to basically tell your story that you guys are pitching right now in the form of numbers and in your financial model. So that way, if an investor sees Michelle's pitch right now, and they're like, hey, I see the vision. When they go look in their financial model during the due diligence, they will see the same story and they will see numbers that back up and support and really establish that vision by showing you how you are connecting those big strategic goals tactically, like the tactical execution, the month-over-month goals that you need to set to chase down those big goals. So our bread and butter is financial models. We worked with companies who are pre-revenue, even just in the idea stage, to kind of map things out, all the way up, kind of more focusing around companies that are around $1 million in revenue, is probably where most of our customers land. And as the finances become an even bigger part of the question, right? But so yeah, kind of a cool thing if you're in a lot of these startup scenes. I know you guys have seen us around, so I'll leave it at that. But thanks for having us.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh. We love Forecaster. We love both you and Jeff. Thank you. So let's move on in the agenda. If you want to
just real quick, I was going to mention that Forecaster actually put together a fundraising playbook that is really top notch. It's actually the playbook we use to raise 4 consecutive oversubscribed rounds. I just dropped a link in there for anyone interested, but it is a solid playbook. And Michele, I don't know if you have it already, but I think this would be a great resource for you as well.
Have it, pass it around often.
Love it.
Awesome.
Assume I'm supposed to. I never actually asked.
Oh, please do. Please do.
That's phenomenal. And Jeff and Josh, if you have any other links that you would like people to see, throw them in the chat, so they can be directed to the right place at Forecaster or the right people if they've got additional questions. All right, let's jump into the next 2 presentations. The next 2 are a little bit different in that they are very early stage in the process of commercialization. So they're looking for feedback and any collaboration and engagement that you could offer as a group. So Jeremy, I'll let you start sharing your screen and jump in on the presentation and ask for TRRP.
Great, thanks, Taylor. I'm Jeremy Hammer, and so I'm currently looking at the Trauma Resilience and Recovery Program software for doing a boot camp with Summit Venture Studio. So I started on this project about 2 weeks ago. So as Taylor mentioned, pretty early stage. The problem that this software is trying to address is that there's about 2.7 million annual traumatic injuries in the US a year, and then about a third of those, or 800,000, land into or end up producing PTSD and depression after discharge. And so these mental health conditions can lead to substance problems, functional impairment, reduced quality of life, and then the failure to screen these patients post-discharge can lead to 90% of those patients without adequate care once they're discharged from the hospital. So a new standard from the American College of Surgeons came out to try to address this in 2022, and it's currently being mandated and implemented, requiring the level 1 and level 2 trauma centers to perform a screen and refer on the bedside. So while the patient is still in the trauma center, making sure that if there are any symptoms that pop up in the screening, they get correctly referred. The issue or the TRRP is enhancing this. So the screen and refer here, the number 1 is more so just what is required by that ACS mandate. The TRP software does automate and allow for the trauma center to do a plug and play on those requirements, meeting compliance. But I think more importantly is that it's following up after discharge, and nobody else is, no other software is doing this, and making sure that those patients receive adequate care once they're discharged with the automated text messages, and then 30, 90-day screenings, just because a lot of symptoms post-traumatic injury can come up post-discharge, even though they were feeling fine in the trauma center. So most recent peer-reviewed studies showed that the evidence is there that this really prevents readmission or recidivism for patients that have been discharged, just because they're not falling through the cracks, right? They can get symptoms, PTSD or depression, but they're being cared for post-discharge. And so right now we're in the stage of finding out the value propositions of why would a hospital system adopt this? Because we definitely know from a patient perspective, with the evidence in the peer-reviewed publication, and that it's definitely better for the patient, right, to be able to be monitored when we know that these mental health symptoms and conditions can come up later. It's just how do we get the hospital to see the value in it? So one is this ACS compliance mandate and having a plug and play solution. So the hospital, the trauma center, doesn't need to do a DIY system. They don't need to expend labor and burn their resources with trying to meet this mandate. Another value proposition we're focusing on is revenue through CPT reimbursement that wouldn't otherwise be realized. So for example, if a hospital doesn't have this follow-up system on 30 days, automated text messaging between 30 and 90 days, if they have an outpatient behavioral health center, they're missing on a revenue opportunity to, if there's a patient that needs care, self-refer them back to the outpatient center. So we're also exploring that as a value proposition. And then referral fees, if they're referring out to another entity, is there a way for them to be compensated for that? So fortunately, right now, what's great about TRRP is they are in 9 different sites in South Carolina, and actually just got done with the second voice of customer interview today. And really what our strategy is interviewing these current sites that have actually been funded by a grant to have the software. And right now, most of their grant funding has run out. So they're either paying for it or they're not. Maybe they didn't adopt. And so we're making our rounds through all these sites, and then spider webbing out from them, as they may have colleagues in different states that may have addressed the compliance issue through another means. And so really with those next steps, right, we want to see what these sites are doing, if they're paying, how much, they're paying, or did they go back to a DIY system because the value wasn't there? Really understanding the value propositions of why somebody would adopt this, and at what price point. And from there, then we're able to really get our addressable market sizes from that. So I think my ask is, we've come up with some value propositions, but if anybody has any suggestions on other monetization pathways, that'd be really helpful. And then, we are working within the current clientele of this software, which is great. But if anybody has any contacts for introductions in other trauma centers, physicians, trauma center physicians, nurses, coordinators, so that we could get their insights on the mandate, and this kind of software as well would be really helpful.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeremy. I'll open it up to questions. You can either throw them in the chat or just come off mute and pepper Jeremy with some questions. So biggest ask right now, Jeremy, is people who may be in this space, just basically stakeholders or people that you could interview to validate value proposition, willingness to pay. Is there another ask on top of that?
Yeah, just we came up with some of those value propositions here, but if people also have any ideas of different monetization pathways for a software like this, love to hear any insights or recommendations as well.
Hey, Jeremy, this is Caitlin. So obviously I know this a little more in depth, as this came out of my university for everyone else that's on here that I don't know. I guess a question for you on this with the value proposition, because I'm kind of similar to you where I was learning about this a couple years ago. Are you looking for like a value proposition for the trauma center in general that would be adopting this, or for like the company that would be put in place that would then be selling this to the trauma centers?
Yeah, thank you, Galen. Yeah, really from a trauma center perspective. So, and I'm just learning, more about interdepartmental budgets, and if this is another line item, a cost item that ends up going through a financial decision makers review committee for annual budgets, things of that nature, to where they can see the expenditure on this software is able to make revenue that wouldn't otherwise be realized, or avoid penalties, right? Like the mandate and those consequences.
Yeah. So I'd say another one that I've kind of learned about through it is like time saving from the perspective of people. Like obviously they have to input the patient information into each of them.
Right.
There's a lot of things that are automated through this. So a lot of the follow-up that Jeremy talked about that it does with the patients on that like 30 days post post when they were admitted for their traumatic event is all automated, and that's automated text messaging. It's sending automated responses back. And so they're having a higher rate of responses from people, but it's also taking away time because before they started to implement TRRP in 2015, they were having to manually call all of the patients that are in the system and manually do all the follow-up. So it's saved a lot of provider time from that aspect as well.
Interesting. I didn't think about the time savings there as much for the providers.
Yeah, and it's more, I guess, on like whoever it was probably nurses or someone that was doing the follow-ups and checking in with the patients at every point in time. and things like that. So there's definitely, that's another piece that I know people have expressed through some of our other calls just over the past couple of years. That's a big thing for them.
Great, thank
Yeah.
you.
Looks like Dan, Baird, Jeremy has some contacts, so
Okay,
or some thoughts there in the chat. So I would suggest connecting with him. Dan is awesome. I would encourage you all to check out a couple of our favorite people's websites. So Dan is one of them with wrench.ai. And then Bruce Rowe is at SIBO Marketing. And I think he could be really helpful, Michele, with some of the marketing in your company as well. So I see you connecting with him on the chat as well, but I would encourage everybody to check out SIBO Marketing, SEBO, and wrench.ai, like a tool.ai. All right, let's move on to Skeema. Similar situation here where early stage project, and Mark is taking the lead on that. Will you jump in and tell us more? Oh, I really get to say it this time. Mark, you're muted.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I was like, just figured that out. Can everyone see my screen okay? Yes?
Yep.
Great.
Yep.
Okay, we're here to talk about browser tab management. I don't know about you guys, but I definitely suffer myself from having too many browser tabs. It turns out many others do as well. So I want to get into that. So let's talk about Skeema. Your browser is a mess. It's not your fault. Right? There really hasn't been any real scalable solutions for browser tab management. A lot have been tried, but they get cluttered at scale. People can't keep themselves organized due to their browser drift, right? How their attention shifts. And there's a lot of black hole opportunities, right? Things are bookmarked or tagged and then just never looked at again. Right, so Skeema is different, right? It basically turns tabs into flexible building blocks. So you can work with the web the way you work in your head. Skeema is a Chrome browser extension at its heart that combines tab management with task management. Essentially treats your tabs like tasks. Also has some copy and paste on steroids, right? It allows users to quickly save websites or clips from a website as a task. And you can also save reading items for later, and Skeema will resurface them on your homepage. Let's give a brief demo because I think an overview of how this works is going to be key for you guys to understand. I'm just going to verbally talk through a professor from. Okay, he's showing multiple tabs, right? Clear, right? Everyone see this? Let's see the video, okay? All right, so this is the Skeema homepage, and you can see he just opened up a project on the left, right? So you can store different projects, and then that bar on the right is essentially your list of tabs, right, from across the top. And you'll see that he's going to pull in tabs to create tasks within Skeema. He's creating a new project. All right, there we go. So he's pulling it in, immediately created a new task. For those that are familiar with Todoist, this UI should feel somewhat similar. It definitely is a little inspired by that. Right, you can add notes. You can also clip items from the website, as I mentioned, right? So he's going in, taking some pictures, right? Some screenshots. You'll see in a moment, he also pulls some text from the website, and these are saved as clips within Skeema. Right, so there's the tabs and there's a clips section, and he's going to pull all these in underneath that original task. Right, very cool. Let's see, I think You can also pull in multiple tabs, and as he pulls in tabs, they're cleared out from his browser. So just really reducing the clutter within your within your browser. Skeema was originally launched in October 2022. This was out on the market. It also had an article on TechCrunch, which you see below. Was launched by Product Hunt and AppSumo, and they had a few thousand users for a little while there. Ultimately, Skeema was sunset in fall 2024, leaving many users stranded. Former users are pretty disappointed by the app going offline. I've talked to several, and people were crazy about this thing. They said it was the only thing that really wrangled their browser, kept their browser tabs at a reasonable limit. You can see some of their quotes here. First tab manager where I went, oh, I like this. They used it all the time. Kept getting warnings it was going offline. I was like, no, 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 no. Right. So a lot of really positive feedback. We're still pretty early in this, as Taylor mentioned, right? So right now I'm trying to figure out what's our growth strategy, right? At its heart, this is a B2C product. And so I think our growth strategy is going to be important. So I'm looking for connections to anyone within like B2C growth marketing, right? Particularly if we're focused on any of the following, right? I think our strategy is going to involve some elements of all of these. Also really need a technical co-founder, right? So if you know any developers that've made a Chrome extension, would love to talk to them. And lastly, right, we're wondering if we need to change the name, particularly from the perspective of we're going to be relaunching this, right? And do people have, is this an opportunity to adjust that branding? So I have a few ideas there that I can show on the next slide, but I thought I'd take a pause and gather some thoughts and questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, I'll just say, Mark, this is awesome. I can totally relate with the problem.
Yeah.
So, yeah, great job explaining the problem. I totally get it. Interesting. Do you know why this was sunset? I mean, how much did they raise from Menlo and some of the others?
I don't know how much they raised from Menlo. It was sunset because they made a major pivot. The original team pivoted to work on something new, right? And it's somewhat related to browser tab management, but it's not approaching it in the same way. And there's a lot of users that just want the old product back.
Interesting.
Mark, I just did a Google search for Skeema, and it basically directed me to a thing called skipper.co. Is that a competitor, or what's the
That's the
connection?
that's the product they pivoted to.
So yours is a competitor essentially to that.
Essentially, it is a different approach, right? So Skipper is essentially abandoning the task management side of things, right? It doesn't have the clipping either, right? It's very much just focused on having essentially AI help group your tabs together. A lot of my interviews with people, with users and potential users, people don't really seem to want their attention, I think, directed by AI. So, and there's a lot of users that just have tried Skipper and have said, I don't really use it in the same way I do Skeema. I don't really use it as often as I use Skeema, right? So we have like a core set of really enthusiastic former users, and that's where I look at this and I see a lot of promise.
And what's the eventual financial model? I'm just curious. I mean, you get a million people using it or whatever. Like, how is this going?
I'm thinking that this would need to have a product-led growth approach, right? So there'd be a free tier that would have a limited number of, say, projects and tasks that can be added, right? And then a premium tier, right? That maybe opens that to be unlimited, and maybe even an enterprise tier where there's more like collaboration, sharing, security options, right? As far as what that looks like financially yet, still building that out. Dan, I see you sent a message here. Cool. What's the moat to defend the premise? UX is snazzy, but hard to defend without post-processing. Plans to connect to Second Brains, Notion, Obsidian. No, don't change the name. I think the moat here is really around, right, user growth, right? That's why The more users we can get using this, that's our best moat we can have. So if you have other ideas, I'm very welcome to suggestions.
And I
And
think
plans to
the
second
product,
brains.
yeah, the product development side there that he's asking about is maybe some of the things that you're looking to validate in the current state of the product, right? Like what should be next.
Right. I think plans to connect to second brain type products like Notion, Obsidian, Coda, definitely a growth opportunity. I'd be weighing that against several other growth opportunities, right? I have some ideas. I don't really want to get too far into them on this call.
So specific connections that you're looking for, what are the titles or the types of people that this group could introduce you to, Mark?
Oh, it's a great question. I don't have that offhand. You know, marketers that have focused on like marketing consumers, I think any of these spaces. Product growth manager, product-led growth. Yeah, I'm still figuring out some of that.
Okay. Awesome. Any other comments, questions? I think
I do.
Go.
So if you can, I have provided just a quick little link here. If you're interested of like want to sign up for Skeema and try it out when we go online, here's a, oh, hold on. There we go. Here's a link to a sign up form in the chat.
Awesome. Mark, do you want to throw your contact information in there, or is it best just to fill this out and you'll contact us?
Sure, I'll put my contact info in here.
Awesome. Thank you all for coming. Really appreciate your time and your feedback. We'll send out the recording and post it, but thanks to Landon, Michele, Mark, and Jeremy for presenting. Really appreciate it and looking forward to seeing everybody same time next week. Thank you all.
All right, see you, everybody. Thanks, Taylor.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. See you.
Thanks. We'll see you.